Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore one of history's most essential and perhaps least glamorous professions. We're traveling back to a time when keeping up appearances was everything, and the secret to dazzling success was, well, let's just call it a triumph of chemistry over common decency. Honestly, the job you're about to start, let's just say modern workplace safety regulations are a few thousand years away. You probably wouldn't survive this, but from the cozy comfort of your bed, you'll be perfectly fine. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always nice to know these quiet little journeys find a good home. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always fascinating to see where these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the warmth, not the oppressive heat of midday, but a gentle, promising warmth that seeps through the thin leather of your sandals. The cobblestones beneath your feet are still cool in the long shadows, but where the early morning sun touches them, they radiate a soft, ancient heat. You are standing on a quiet street in a corner of Rome, not the grand marble-faced Rome of senators and triumphs, but the living, breathing city of narrow alleys and towering apartment blocks, the insulae stacked 5 stories high. Your first day. A knot of nervous energy sits in your stomach, a feeling as unfamiliar as the city itself. You've only been here a few weeks, and the sheer scale of it all still makes your head spin. You pull the rough wool of your tunic closer, a useless gesture against a chill that isn't there. It's just nerves. You are about to become an apprentice, a launderer. It sounds simple enough. Important, even. Everyone needs clean clothes. Your uncle, who arranged the position, assured you it was a respectable trade with a powerful guild. He conveniently left out a few key details, which you are, in a way, about to walk into. You begin to walk, your steps finding a rhythm on the uneven stones. The street is waking up around you, slowly, like a great beast stirring from sleep. The soundscape is a soft tapestry of distant noises. A baker, his face already dusted with flour, is pulling the first flatbreads of the day from a brick oven built into the side of a building, and the warm, yeasty smell drifts down the lane, a welcome contrast to the faint, sharp scent rising from the gutters. From an open window high above, you hear the soft murmur of a conversation in a language you're still learning to parse. The Latin of the streets, quick and peppered with slang. A stray dog, all ribs and cunning, watches you pass with weary indifference before trotting off into another shadow. You pass a public fountain, a simple stone basin carved with the face of a river god. Water spilling endlessly from its open mouth. A woman is there, filling a heavy clay amphora, her movements practiced and efficient. She doesn't look at you. In a city this crowded, privacy is achieved not by walls, but by a collective agreement to ignore one another. Raised stone sidewalks, called crepidines, line the street, keeping your feet out of the muck that might flow down the central channel after a rain. It's a clever system, one of the 1,000 small, ingenious details of Roman engineering you see everywhere. Historians still wonder just how loud a Roman city truly was at this hour. Was it a gentle hum, or was the clatter of commerce already in full swing? From your little corner of it, it feels quiet, expectant. As you walk, your eyes drift across the walls of the buildings. They are a canvas of daily life. Faded advertisements, painted in red ochre, promise the best olive oil or the strongest wine. And everywhere, there's graffiti. Not just crude drawings, but messages, complaints, and declarations. Scratched into the plaster next to a doorway, you see a bit of election advice. Vote for the city guards recommend him. A little further on, a more personal note. Marcus was here with Livia. It's a strange and comforting thought. that for thousands of years, people have had the same simple urge to leave their mark, to say, I existed. One particularly well-drawn caricature of a man with an enormous nose makes you smile. It feels deeply human. Asterisk, the sun climbs a little higher, and the shadows shrink. More people are in the streets now. A man carrying a basket of figs, a couple of legionaries off duty, their armor swapped for simple tunics, a slave hurrying on an errand for his master. Their faces are a mixture of Italian, Greek, North African, and Gallic. Rome is a melting pot, a magnet for the entire known world, and you are a tiny, insignificant part of it. On your way to a job you know almost nothing about. Asterisk, the air changes as you turn a corner. The pleasant smell of baking bread is gone, replaced by something else. It's not overwhelming yet, just a faint, sharp tang in the background, an acidic note that catches in the back of your throat. It's the direction your uncle pointed you in. You slow your pace, a little flicker of apprehension returning. Your destination must be close now. The street here is wider, more commercial. You can feel the energy building, the gentle hum of the morning giving way to the purposeful rumble of a city at work. And with it, that strange pungent scent grows stronger. The street has definitely changed. The quiet residential alleys have given way to a wider thoroughfare, bustling with the clatter of cartwheels and the calls of merchants. This is a working street. You can feel the vibration of industry through the soles of your sandals. The buildings are no longer just apartments. They are workshops. You pass a smithy, the rhythmic clang of a hammer on an anvil echoing from its dark interior, the air around it smelling of hot metal and coal smoke. Next to it, a carpenter is shaving a long plank of wood, the sweet, resinous scent of pine curling into the street. But through it all, that other smell persists, cutting through the pleasant aromas, like a sour note in a beautiful song. It's stronger now, an undeniable presence. Asterisk, you check the scrap of parchment your uncle gave you. The directions are simple. The drawing of the crossroads, crude, but clear. This is the place. You look up, and there it is, the Phalonica. It's a respectable-looking establishment, larger than the other workshops on the street. It has a wide-open storefront, like a gaping mouth, revealing a cavernous, shadowy interior. The building itself is sturdy, made of stone and dark timber, with a tiled roof that looks well-maintained. It doesn't look derelict or unpleasant. In fact, it looks prosperous. Asterisk, what strikes you as most odd, however, are the large clay pots. There are half a dozen of them, stout earthenware vessels, almost as tall as your waist, cemented into the pavement right by the entrance. They look like public amenities, perhaps for water, or for discarding rubbish. But they are immaculately clean on the outside, and their purpose doesn't seem immediately obvious. As you watch, a man in a dusty tunic saunters over to one, turns his back to the street for a moment with a perfectly casual air, and then walks away, whistling. A few moments later, another man does the same, and suddenly, with a dawning, slightly horrified sense of clarity, you understand. Asterisk, these are not water jugs. They are public collection vats, the source of the sharp ammoniac smell that now hangs so heavily in the air. This is the secret ingredient. Your uncle, that sly old fox, failed to mention that the primary cleaning agent for the finest togas in Rome is, in fact, human urine. It's a brilliant chemical solution, really. The ammonia it contains is a powerful degreaser and bleaching agent. It is also, you now realize, profoundly pungent. You stand there for a moment, processing this new information. Historians have long debated the social etiquette of using these public latrines. Was it done discreetly, as you just witnessed, a normal, unremarkable part of the urban landscape? Or was it a source of jokes and mild embarrassment? Seeing it happen, it feels so mundane, so utterly normal, that it's almost more jarring than if it were treated as shameful. Asterisk, you tear your eyes away from the pots. and look up at the sign hanging above the entrance. It's not just a painted board. It's a beautifully carved stone relief, a clear sign of the owner's wealth and pride in his trade. It's the ancient equivalent of a premium dry cleaner's logo. The relief is divided into panels, telling a story. On the left, a man is shown, stomping vigorously in a small tub. In the middle, another figure is brushing a suspended garment with a large, spiky tool. On the right, a man carries a huge, dome-shaped wicker frame, and presiding over it all is a small, carved owl, the symbol of the goddess Minerva, patron of crafts and wisdom. The figures are stylized and cheerful, their faces frozen in expressions of happy industry. It's a masterpiece of ancient marketing, promising efficiency and quality while politely omitting the olfactory details. Asterisk, the entrance is wide and welcoming, yet you hesitate on the threshold. The smells from inside are a concentrated, more complex version of what you've been sensing on the street. It's not just a sharp bite of ammonia anymore. It's layered. There's the damp, earthy smell of wet wool, like a flock of sheep after a rainstorm. There's a faint, smoky scent you can't quite place. And something else, a chalky, mineral dust that seems to float in the air. It's an atmosphere thick with chemistry and hard labor. Asterisk, you take a deep breath, trying to brace yourself, which you immediately realize is a tactical error. The potent air floods your senses. You clutch the parchment in your hand, its edges now slightly damp from your nervous grip. This is it, the start of your new life. A life that, apparently, will be steeped in the very substance most people spend their lives trying to avoid. A part of you wants to turn and run, to find the baker with his warm bread or the carpenter with his sweet-smelling wood shavings, but you can't. A position in a guild is a path to citizenship, a future. And besides, you are far too curious to turn back now. What kind of world have you just stepped into? A world where the most brilliant whites are born from the most humble, and frankly, most aromatic of sources. You plant your feet, square your shoulders, and prepare to step across the threshold from the familiar world of the Roman street into the strange, pungent heart of the Phalonica. Asterisk, asterisk. You step over the stone threshold, and the world changes. The sounds of the street, the cartwheels, the voices, the distant hammering are instantly muffled, replaced by a new set of noises. The dominant sound is a rhythmic, sloshing squelch, accompanied by the steady drip of water and the low hum of conversation from the figures working within. But the sound is a secondary sensation, the first thing that truly hits you. A physical presence that seems to coat the inside of your nose and mouth is the smell. Asterisk, it's a wall. A solid, invisible wall of scent that you have to push your way through. On the street, it was just a sharp tense. Here, inside, it's a symphony of pungency. A complex blend of odors that have seeped into the very stone and timber of the building. The ammonia is the lead instrument, of course. Sharp and eye-wateringly strong, like a bottle of smelling salts held permanently under your nose. But beneath it, other notes play. There's the heavy, animal scent of damp, lanolin-rich wool. There's the acrid, almost metallic smell of sulfur, which you can't yet see the source of. And underlying it all is a faint, musty aroma of mildew and damp earth. The permanent perfume of a place that is never truly dry. You try to breathe through your mouth. Another rookie mistake. The taste is somehow worse. A bitter, chemical film that settles on your tongue. Asterisk, your eyes slowly adjust to the dim, cavernous interior. The high ceiling is crisscrossed with dark wooden beams, from which long poles are suspended. Light filters down in dusty shafts from high, narrow windows, illuminating a scene of organized, albeit damp, chaos. The floor is a mosaic of flagstones, worn smooth by centuries of work and wetness. Sloping gently towards a central drainage channel, the whole place operates on a grand scale, far bigger than it looked from the outside. It's less a shop and more a small, self-contained factory. Asterisk, you see workers everywhere. About a dozen of them, mostly men and a few older boys. None of them are wearing fine togas. They're stripped down to simple knee-length tunics, many of them hitched up at the waist for freedom of movement. Their skin glistens with a sheen of sweat and moisture. Their movements are economical and practiced, a well-choreographed dance of physical labor. No one seems to notice you at first, each person absorbed in their specific task. The air is thick with a fine mist, kicked up from the various pools and vats that dot the large room. Asterisk, your gaze follows the source of the rhythmic squelching. In the center of the room are several small, circular enclosures, like shallow stone tubs, built right into the floor. Inside each one, a worker stands ankle-deep in a slurry of garments and murky liquid, treading up and down in a steady, monotonous rhythm, much like the cheerful figure on the sign outside. Their legs are bare, their tunics tied up high. They hold on to a low wall or a suspended rope for balance. It looks like a bizarre form of grape stomping, but you know, with a sickening certainty, what they are treading in. Asterisk, near the back, you see another set of larger, deeper basins. These are filled with clearer water, and two men are working together to heave a massive, dripping bundle of cloth from one basin to the next. The water sloshing over the sides and running in rivulets down the sloped floor. This must be the rinsing station. The sheer weight of the wet wool is immense, and you can see the strain in their shoulders as they work. Asterisk, along one wall, a man stands on a low stool, meticulously brushing a tunic that has been hung on a frame. He's using a tool that looks like a giant hairbrush, its surface covered in sharp bristles. It's the second image from the sign. He works with intense concentration, his hands moving in smooth, practiced strokes. This is clearly a craft that requires more than just brute force. There's a finesse to it, a learned skill. Asterisk, it's all a bit overwhelming. The assault on your senses, the sheer industry of the place. You stand there, just inside the doorway, feeling small and useless, the dry parchment still clutched in your hand. An older man with a bald head and a surprisingly muscular build, his tunic stained with 100 different chemicals, finally notices you. He wipes his hands on a rag tucked into his belt and approaches, his expression neither friendly nor unkind. Just appraising. Asterisk, you, the new boy, he asks, his voice a low rumble. His Latin is rough, the accent of a man who has worked his entire life with his hands, not his words. Asterisk. You make your way toward the back of the workshop, navigating a maze of dripping laundry and overflowing baskets. The floor is slick under your sandals, and you have to walk carefully to avoid the small rivers of murky water flowing toward the central drain. The air here is somehow even thicker, the humidity clinging to your skin and clothes. You pass the treading vats, and for a moment, you lock eyes with one of the workers. He's a young man, not much older than you, with matted hair and a weary but focused expression. He gives you a slight, almost imperceptible nod, a silent acknowledgement of your shared, impending fate, before returning his gaze to the sloshing mess at his feet. Asterisk, the press room is a smaller alcove-like space off the main floor. Here, the air is drier, and the dominant smell shifts from ammonia to the scent of damp wood and something akin to warm linen. In the center of the room stands a colossal wooden contraption that looks like an instrument of torture. It's a screw press, a marvel of Roman engineering, with a central beam as thick as a tree trunk. This, you surmise, is for wringing every last drop of water from the cleaned garments and pressing them into a crisp, flat finish. Asterisk, a man is standing beside it, inspecting a freshly pressed tunic. He is older than the other workers, with streaks of gray in his dark hair and fine lines around his eyes. He wears a simple tunic like the others, but his is cleaner, and the authority in his posture is unmistakable. This must be the master, Lucius Vettius, the man your uncle told you about. He runs this Phalonica, one of the most respected in the entire district. Asterisk, he turns as you approach, his eyes sharp and intelligent. They take you in from head to toe in a single, swift glance, assessing your build, your posture, your willingness to work. Asterisk, you're the new apprentice, he says. It isn't a question. His voice is calm and measured, a stark contrast to the gruffness of the foreman you met at the door. Quintus speaks well of you, says you're a quick learner, and not afraid of hard work. We shall see. Asterisk, he gestures for you to follow him back into the main room, and you fall into step behind him. He walks with a purpose, pointing out different stations as you pass. Asterisk, this is more than a laundry. He begins, his tone becoming professorial, like a teacher instructing a prize pupil. Anyone can wash a tunic in the river. We create brilliance. We restore dignity. A man's status in Rome is written on his toga. It must be immaculate, not just clean, but whiter than new fallen snow on the Capitoline Hill. Asterisk, he stops in front of a large pile of soiled garments waiting to be processed. The heap is a symphony of beige, brown, and gray stains. Food spills, sweat marks, and the general grime of the city streets. He picks up a toga, a magnificent garment even in its sullied state, made from at least 12 feet of heavy, off-white wool. Asterisk, look at this, he says, holding it up. This belongs to Senator Claudius Poolcare. He will wear it to the forum tomorrow. When he stands to speak, he must command respect. His words are important, but his appearance speaks first. A dull, grayish toga suggests a dull, grayish mind. A brilliantly white toga that suggests purity, importance, and attention to detail. Asterisk, he lets the fabric drop back onto the pile. And that is what we provide. Purity, for a price. There's a faint, wry smile on his face. He knows the irony of what he's saying. Asterisk, he leads you over to the public collection pots you saw outside, gesturing toward the opening at the back where the contents are drained into the workshop. And this, he says, his voice dropping slightly, is our first and most important tool, nature's perfect cleanser. He seems to notice the slight wrinkling of your nose. Ah yes, the aroma. You will get used to it. Or, more accurately, you will lose the ability to smell anything else. It is a small sacrifice for our craft. Asterisk, he explains the science, simple and effective. The urea in the liquid decays into ammonia, a potent alkaline solution. It's a powerful surfactant, meaning it breaks down grease and dirt, and a natural bleaching agent that whitens the wool fibers. The best quality, he adds with a conspiratorial wink, comes from travelers. Something about the long journey makes it more potent. We pay a small fee for full vats, delivered from the public bathhouses. It's a quirky detail you'd never have imagined a supply chain for the city's most undesirable byproduct. The Romans, you realize, wasted nothing. Asterisk, he then points to the workers in the treading vats. That is where you will begin, in the Saltus, the Fuller's Dance. He says the words without a trace of humor, though it seems inherently ridiculous. You will learn the rhythm. You will learn the feel of the cloth beneath your feet. You will learn how to shift your weight to work the Lauer special mixture of urine and alkaline ash deep into the fibers of the wool. Asterisk, he looks you in the eye, his expression serious. This is the most important step. An imperfect tread means a dull toga. A dull toga means an unhappy senator. And an unhappy senator, he concludes, his voice a low growl, is bad for business. Do you understand? Asterisk, you nod, your throat suddenly dry. The reality of the job is setting in. It's not just about getting clothes clean. It's about upholding the social fabric of Rome, one stomped, urine-soaked toga at a time. Historians still debate the exact recipes used by while urine was the base. Many likely had their own secret additives, special types of ash, minerals like Fuller's Earth, or other chemical agents to enhance the whitening process. Lucius, it seems, runs a high-end establishment with a proprietary blend. and you are about to be initiated into its most fragrant secrets. Asterisk, asterisk. Lucius Vettius gives you a final, appraising look, and then gestures toward the foreman you first met. Gaius will get you started. Listen to him. He has been treading cloths since before you were born. With that, the master turns and walks back toward his press room, leaving you in the capable, if slightly intimidating, hands of the veteran worker. Gaius grunts, his expression unchanged. Right, boy? Off with the sandals, and roll up that tunic. You'll want to tie it high. No sense in washing what's already clean, eh? He offers a gruff, humorless chuckle. You do as you're told, kicking off your sandals and placing them carefully against a wall, well away from the flowing rivulets on the floor. The stone is cool and damp beneath your bare feet, surprisingly gritty. You roll the hem of your tunic up around your thighs, securing it with a twist in the fabric. You feel exposed and utterly out of your element. Gaius leads you to an empty treading vat. It's a shallow stone basin, perhaps 4 feet in diameter, its interior stained, a dark, murky color from years of use. It's currently empty, save for a slimy residue at the bottom. First, we fill, he says, pointing to a large clay pipe that protrudes from the wall. He turns a wooden stopcock, and a gurgling sound echoes from within. A moment later, a yellowish, frothy liquid begins to pour into the vat. The smell, now undiluted and just inches from your face, is staggering. It's the concentrated essence of the entire workshop, a raw, chemical blast that makes your eyes water and your stomach lurch. You instinctively take a step back, but Gaius puts a firm hand on your shoulder. Stand your ground, boy. It's just work. Breathe through your mouth and think of the coin. Once the vat is about a quarter full, he shuts off the flow. Another worker arrives, carrying a large, heavy basket overflowing with soiled garments. With a grunt of effort, he tips the basket, and a cascade of tunics, stolas, and one enormous toga tumbles into the basin. The fabric immediately soaks up the liquid, turning dark and heavy. Now, we add the ash, Gaius says. He scoops a wooden bowl into a nearby barrel filled with a fine, gray powder potash. You guess, from burnt wood. He sprinkles it evenly over the soaking laundry. This gives it bite, helps the lye do its work. The moment of truth has arrived. Gaius points to the vat. In you go. The idea is to keep moving. Use your weight. Pound the cloth with your heels, then your toes. Turn it over with your feet. You need to work the mixture into every single fiber. You take a deep, shaky breath. Another mistaken step up onto the low wall of the vat. The mixture below looks like a dreadful, bubbling swamp. You hesitate for a second, then plunge your feet in. The liquid is surprisingly warm, almost tepid, and the texture is slimy and thick. The wet wool squelches and shifts under your weight, an unstable, lumpy mass. It's a deeply unpleasant sensation. You begin to tread, awkwardly at first. You try to copy the steady, rhythmic stomping of the other workers, but your movements are clumsy. You nearly lose your balance twice, flailing your arms to stay upright. Gaius watches with a critical eye, arms crossed over his chest. No, boy, you're splashing. It's a dance, not a fight. Feel the rhythm. He starts to clap a slow, steady beat with his calloused hands. 1, 2, 1, 2, heel, then toe. Push down. Don't just tap it. You try to match his rhythm, focusing on the sound of his clapping rather than the revolting feeling between your toes. Slowly, you find a kind of groove. The initial awkwardness begins to fade, replaced by the simple, monotonous physicality of the task. Heel toe. Push. Shift. Turn the heavy cloth with your ankle. It is, in its own strange way, a dance. The Saltus Fullinicus. One of the lesser-known historical details of this job is the potential for foot ailments. Constant immersion in this alkaline solution would have softened the skin, making workers susceptible to cuts, infections, and strange rashes. A professional hazard no Roman poet ever bothered to write about. You fall into the rhythm of the work. The world narrows to the 4-foot circle of your stone vat. The sounds of the workshop fade into a background hum. Your mind goes blessedly blank, focusing only on the steady 1-2 beat. You can feel the powerful lye working, the lanolin and grime being stripped from the wool. You can also feel a strange tingling sensation on your skin, the chemical brew beginning to do its work on you. After what feels like an eternity, but was probably only half an hour, Gaius holds up a hand. Enough. That's the first pass. He helps you hoist the now incredibly heavy, sodden bundle of cloth out of the vat and into a large wicker basket. The liquid that drains from it is a foul, dark brown, carrying away the dirt of the city. You look down at your feet and legs. They are red and raw-looking, and they smell, well, they smell exactly like the place you work. Not bad for a first try. Gaius grunts, which from him feels like high praise. You didn't fall in? That's a start. He points to another pile of soiled laundry. Now, we do it again. You stare at the fresh pile, then back at your vat. There is no triumphant feeling of a job well done, only the quiet, dawning realization that your day is going to be made up of this single, repetitive, pungent task. Historians still wonder if these workers ever became completely nose-blind to the smell, or if it was a constant low-level form of torture they simply learned to endure. As you prepare to fill the vat for a second time, you suspect it's the latter. You just endure. After the second, and then a third, cycle of treading, Gaius finally seems satisfied with your work on the first batch of laundry. Your legs ache with a dull, unfamiliar burn, and your skin feels tight and prickly from the alkaline solution. You are beginning to understand that the Fooler's dance is less a dance and more a relentless, full-body workout. Alright, boy, come with me, Gaius says, gesturing for you to follow. You hobble after him, your feet tender on the gritty stone floor. He leads you away from the treading vats, toward the back of the Phalonica, where the larger, deeper basins are located. The air here is slightly cleaner. The sharp bite of ammonia, diluted by the sheer volume of fresh water. These are the rinsing pools. There are 5 of them in a row, each about the size of a large bathtub, constructed of smooth, waterproofed stone, and fed by a constant, gentle flow of water from a lead pipe connected to one of Rome's famous aqueducts. This is a key feature of a high-end Phalonica, direct access to clean running water. Lesser establishments had to make do with hauling water from public fountains, or using The constant, gurgling sound of the flowing water is a soothing counterpoint to the squelching and slapping noises of the main work. To men. Their bodies, lean and corded with muscle, are already at work here. They are heaving the basket of laundry you just finished treading, its contents a heavy, grayish mass, toward the first pool. This is the second stage, Gaius explains, his voice echoing slightly in the more open space. Getting the lye out is just as important as getting it in. Leave it too long, and it eats away at the wool. The cloth becomes brittle. You watch as the 2 workers, with a coordinated grunt, tip the basket and spill the entire load into the first rinsing pool. The clear water immediately clouds, turning a murky, soapy gray as the potent cleaning mixture begins to leach out of the heavy fabric. One of the men grabs a long wooden pole with a paddle-like end and begins to agitate the water, pushing and prodding the bundle of cloth, turning it over and over. It's like stirring a giant, lumpy soup. Each batch goes through all 5 pools. Gaius continues, pointing down the line, from dirtiest to cleanest. By the time it reaches the last one, the water should run almost clear. It's a simple system, but it works. This is where you come in. Your next job is to help the other men move the sodden mass from one pool to the next. The senior worker, a man with a thick beard and kind eyes, named Marcus, shows you how to get a proper grip on the heavy, slippery wool. It's a group effort. On his count, all three of you bend your knees, grab a hold of the enormous, dripping bundle, and heave it up and over the low stone wall, separating the first pool from the second. Asterisk, the weight is astonishing. You feel a sharp strain in your back and shoulders as you lift. The wet wool is a dead weight, heavy and uncooperative, and cold water splashes down your front, soaking your already damp tunic. You stumble, but regain your footing, successfully helping to dump the mass into the next pool with a great splash. Asterisk, Marcus gives you a weary smile. You'll get the hang of it. The secret is to lift with your legs, not your back. It's timeless advice, passed down from one manual laborer to another, as true in ancient Rome as it is today. Asterisk, you spend the next hour in this manner, moving different batches of laundry through the rinsing cycle. It's brutally physical work. You push and pull the heavy cloth through the water with the wooden paddles. Then you heave it from one pool to the next. Your arms and back scream in protest. A lesser-known fact about Roman textiles is the sheer weight of a formal toga, woven from thick, high-quality wool. A dry toga could weigh upwards of 10 to 12 pounds. When fully saturated with water, that weight could easily triple or quadruple, making each garment a monstrous burden to handle. Asterisk, as you work, you notice the subtle changes in the cloth. In the first pool, it's a stiff, slimy, grayish mess. By the third, it has softened considerably, and the color is visibly lighter, closer to a natural cream. By the time you haul it from the fifth and final pool, it is almost unrecognizable. The fabric is supple, the wool fibers are loosening, and its color is a soft, clean white. The transformation is remarkable. You can finally see the promise of the dazzling brilliance the master spoke of. Asterisk. Historians often marvel at the scale of Roman infrastructure, the aqueducts being a prime example, but they often focus on their use for public baths and drinking water. Establishments like this Phalanaka were also major consumers, integrating this advanced public utility directly into their industrial processes. The constant supply of fresh water was the lifeblood of this business, allowing for a level of cleanliness and efficiency that would have been impossible otherwise. It was a perfect fusion of brute labor and sophisticated engineering. Asterisk. Finally, the last batch is moved into a large wicker basket, ready for the next stage. The water in the final pool remains almost perfectly clear, a sign of a job well done. You stand back, breathing heavily, sweat mixing with the rinse water on your face. Your hands are pale and wrinkled like old parchment from the prolonged immersion. You've scrubbed, stomped, and rinsed. You feel a small, quiet flicker of pride. You've survived another stage of the process. You are slowly and painfully becoming a full O asterisk with the rinsing complete. You half expect a moment of rest, a chance to catch your breath and let the fire in your muscles subside. But Gaius is already gesturing for you and Marcus to follow him, pushing the heavy basket of damp, clean laundry toward the center of the main floor. The work, it seems, flows as ceaselessly as the water in the rinsing pools. Asterisk. Now for the finer details, Gaius announces, his tone suggesting this next part requires more brain than brawn, though you suspect it will demand plenty of both. The cloth is clean, but it is not yet beautiful. It is our job to make it beautiful. Asterisk. He leads you to a section of the workshop you hadn't paid much attention to before. Here, several large wooden frames stand vertically, like empty canvases. Nearby, a man is on his knees, using a small, sharp knife to carefully trim the leaves from a bundle of what look like dried, prickly plants. He handles them with a practiced care that suggests they are both valuable and dangerous. Asterisk. Marcus wheels the basket of damp laundry over. He and another worker begin to pull out the individual garments, shaking them out with a practiced snap of their wrists to remove the worst of the wrinkles. The cloth is no longer gray and foul, but a soft, creamy white. It smells not of ammonia, but of clean, wet wool. *GAIUS picks up one of the tools the man on the floor was preparing. It's a wooden handle with a frame attached, into which several of the prickly plant heads have been fixed. The result is a wide, menacing-looking brush. This, he says, holding it up for you to inspect, is a carding brush, made from the teasel plant. Nothing man-made works better for raising the nap of the wool. Raising the nap. It's a term you've never heard before, Gaius explains. After the aggressive washing and rinsing, the fine fibers of the wool can become matted and flat. To restore the garment's soft, plush texture, the surface must be brushed or teased, pulling the tiny fibers outward to create a uniform, fluffy finish. It is a delicate process. Too little pressure, and the cloth remains flat. Too much, and you could tear a hole right through the expensive fabric. Your first task is simple observation. You watch as Marcus drapes a damp tunic over a suspended wooden pole. He takes one of the teasel brushes and begins to work, using long, gentle, downward strokes. A fine, misty spray flies from the cloth as he works. At first, nothing seems to be happening, but as he continues his rhythmic brushing, you begin to see a subtle transformation. The surface of the wool, which was flat and almost shiny with moisture, begins to develop a soft, almost fuzzy texture, like the skin of a peach. After the brushing, the tunic is handed off to another worker. This man's job is beating. He hangs the garment and uses two long, thin sticks, like oversized drumsticks, to beat it with a rapid, fluttering rhythm. It's not a violent, heavy-handed beating, but a quick, percussive action. Thwack, 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 bake. The purpose, Gaius explains, is twofold. It knocks out any remaining particles of dirt or fuller's earth trapped deep within the weave, and it helps to further soften and align the wool fibers. Finally, it's your turn. Gaius hands you a smaller brush and points to a simple child's tunic. Start with this. If you ruin it, the boy's father will complain, but at least he's not a senator. Keep your strokes even. Let the weight of the tool do the work. You take the brush. The teasel heads are surprisingly sharp, their tiny hooks grabbing at your skin. You hang the small tunic and begin to brush, trying to imitate Marcus's smooth, consistent movements. It's harder than it looks. Your arm, already aching from heaving the wet laundry, feels heavy as lead. Your strokes are clumsy, sometimes too hard, sometimes too soft. After a few minutes, Gaius stops you. Look, he says, pointing to a small patch on the tunic. You've been overzealous, and a few of the wool fibers have been pulled completely loose, creating a tiny, fuzzy flaw in the otherwise smooth surface. Patience. This is not the treading floor. Finesse, boy, finesse. The sun has climbed high into the sky. Its light now flooding through the upper windows of the Folonica in thick, dusty beams. The air inside, though still humid, has grown warm. The relentless pace of the morning's work has finally eased, and a quiet lull settles over the workshop. The foreman, Gaius, claps his hands together, a sharp sound that cuts through the gentle hum of activity. Break, he calls out. Half an hour. A collective sigh of relief seems to ripple through the workers. Tools are set down, and the rhythmic stomping in the treading vats ceases. Bodies, weary from hours of physical exertion, straighten up slowly. You feel the ache in your own shoulders and back, a deep, resonant soreness that speaks of muscles pushed to their limits. Your hands are raw from the teasel brush, your feet are still tender, and you feel a profound sense of exhaustion you've never known before. Marcus, the bearded worker from the rinsing pools, claps a damp hand on your shoulder. Come on, boy, time to eat. His smile is genuine, and you feel a small sense of belonging. He leads you to a corner of the workshop near the open front, where the air is freshest. A few simple wooden benches are arranged against the wall. This is the designated rest area, a small island of relative tranquility in the sea of industrial grime. The workers gather here, slumping onto the benches, their conversations low and murmured. The topics are simple and timeless. The poor quality of the wine at the local tavern, a wager on an upcoming chariot race, news of a cousin who has joined a legion heading for Britannia. Asterisk, you sit down, feeling the hard wood of the bench against your tired legs. You hadn't realized how hungry you were until you stopped moving. The nervous knot in your stomach from the morning has been replaced by a hollow ache. Marcus hands you a small cloth bundle. Here your first day's wage. Asterisk, you unwrap it. Inside is not a coin, but your lunch. A thick wedge, of course, dark bread, a handful of wrinkled black olives, and a small hard piece of salty cheese. It is simple, humble food, but at this moment, it looks like the most magnificent feast you have ever seen. This was a common practice. Part of an apprentice's pay was often given in the form of meals, ensuring the workers were at least fed for the day's labor. It was practical and efficient, much like everything else in this place. Asterisk, you take a bite of the bread. It's dense and chewy, with a slightly sour taste, but it's substantial. It fills your stomach and quiets the hunger pangs. The olives are intensely flavorful, a burst of salt and bitterness that cuts through the heavy bread. The cheese is sharp and crumbly. You eat slowly, savoring every mouthful, watching the other workers. Asterisk, they are a mixed group. Some are slaves, their lives tied to this workshop. Others are freemen like yourself, working for a meager wage, with the hope of one day mastering the trade. You see men from different parts of the empire. A dark-skinned man you guess is from Numidia, a pale, red-haired giant who must be from Gaul. They communicate in a pidgin of street Latin, gestures, and shared understanding born from working side by side. The social hierarchy of the Roman world, so rigid outside these walls, seems to blur slightly in here. Everyone is united by the pungent smell that clings to their clothes and the shared exhaustion in their bodies. Asterisk, you listen to their quiet chatter. One older man is complaining about the quality of the urine collected that morning. Too watered down, he grumbles. The tavern on the corner must be serving weak wine again. Another is boasting about a toga he finished yesterday, claiming it was so white it practically glowed in the dark. It's shop talk. The mundane conversation of specialists who spend their days immersed in a world outsiders can't possibly understand. Asterisk, historians often wonder about the daily lives and thoughts of the Roman working class. The literature of the era is dominated by the voices of the elite, the poets, senators, and philosophers. The lives of men like these, the ones who performed the essential, unglamorous labor that kept the empire running, are largely silent. This quiet lunch break is a brief, imagined glimpse into that lost world. Their concerns were not of politics or poetry, but of aching backs, weak wine, and the precise chemical potency of their cleaning agents. Asterisk, you finish your meal and lean back against the stone wall. The coolness of it, a welcome relief. The half hour is passing quickly. You close your eyes for just a moment, listening to the gentle murmur of voices and the distant, ever-present sounds of the city outside. For the first time all day, you don't notice the smell of the Phalonica. Perhaps Gaius was right. Maybe you are finally getting used to it. Or maybe you're just too tired to care. The thought is strangely comforting. You feel your body relax, a deep, heavy weariness settling into your bones. It's the satisfying exhaustion that comes only after a morning of hard, honest work. Asterisk, the short respite of lunch ends as abruptly as it began. Gaius claps his hands again, and the workers rise from the benches, with the slow, deliberate movements of men conserving their energy for the long afternoon ahead. You push yourself to your feet, feeling a renewed wave of soreness. Marcus gives you a knowing look. The first day is always the hardest. The second day is the second hardest. Asterisk, he leads you not back to the brushing station, but to a part of the workshop you had only glimpsed before. It's a small windowless room built against the back wall, almost like a separate chamber. The air here feels different, drier, and with a sharp, sulfurous smell that tickles your nostrils. A scent you noticed earlier but couldn't place. Asterisk inside the room. The source of the smell becomes immediately clear. In the center of the floor is a small, smoldering brazier filled with lumps of a yellowish, crystalline substance, sulfur. Floating above the brazier, suspended from the ceiling by a series of ropes and pulleys, is a large, dome-shaped frame made of woven wicker, like a giant, hollow beehive. It is an impressive and slightly eerie sight, the centerpiece of this strange, smoky chamber. This is the third image you saw on the sign outside, the ghost-like dome. Asterisk, the bleaching room, Marcus says, his voice low and slightly muffled in the enclosed space. The final step in achieving true whiteness. Asterisk, your job is to help him prepare the garments for this process. He shows you how to take the brushed and beaten togas, which are still damp, and carefully stretch them over the huge wicker frame. The frame, called a vimini cavia, is designed to hold the garment open, allowing the fumes to circulate freely around every inch of the fabric. It's a two-man job, requiring careful coordination to drape the massive expanse of wool without letting it touch the floor or create any deep creases. Asterisk, once a toga is secured, another worker adds a few more lumps of sulfur to the brazier. The smoke thickens, not in a dark, sooty cloud, but as a pale, almost invisible vapor that shimmers in the dim light. The smell intensifies, catching in the back of your throat with a dry, acidic bite. Asterisk, now, we seal it, Marcus says. He leads you out of the room, and together you swing a heavy wooden door shut, fitting it tightly into its frame. A small sliding panel at the bottom of the door allows them to control the airflow to the brazier, keeping the sulfur smoldering at the perfect, slow-burning rate. Asterisk, the science behind it is another piece of Roman practical chemistry. When sulfur burns, it releases sulfur dioxide gas. In the presence of the moisture still trapped in the damp wool, this gas creates a mild solution of sulfurous acid. This acid is a powerful reducing agent, a type of bleach that works by stripping oxygen atoms from the molecules that cause color, effectively turning them colorless. It is particularly effective on the natural yellow tints found in wool, turning a creamy off-white into a brilliant, stark white. It's a chemical magic trick, transforming cloth in a sealed, smoky room. Asterisk, this process was one of the best-kept secrets of the Fuller's Guild. While many people knew about the use of urine, the sulfur bleaching was a more specialized technique that set the high-end Fullernic apart from their competitors. It was also, of course, incredibly hazardous. Inhaling sulfur dioxide gas can cause severe respiratory damage. This is likely why the room was designed to be sealed from the outside, and why the workers spent as little time in it as possible. Historians speculate that the workers who specialized in this part of the process probably had significantly shorter lifespans, another unwritten cost of Roman fashion. Asterisk, you spend the next hour helping Marcus and the others rotate garments onto and off of the wicker frames. You work in short, efficient bursts, holding your breath as much as possible whenever you have to enter the smoky room to retrieve a finished toga. The difference is astonishing. The togas that come out are not just white. They are almost luminous, with a crisp, pure brightness that seems impossible for a natural fabric to possess. They feel slightly stiff to the touch and carry the faint, sharp scent of sulfur, a perfume of purity that will fade as they dry. Asterisk, you see a toga belonging to a senator, identifiable by its broad purple stripe, the latest clavis. The purple of the stripe, a dye made from rare sea snails, is unaffected by the sulfur, creating a stunning contrast against the brilliant white of the wool. It is a garment fit for an emperor, a true masterpiece of textile finishing. And you, with your sore muscles and raw hands, have played a small part in its creation. After the almost mystical process of sulfur bleaching, the next stage feels reassuringly solid and mechanical. The togas are now dazzlingly white, but they are also still slightly damp and wrinkled from being stretched on the frames. The final steps are all about achieving the perfect finish, a crisp, smooth texture that hangs in elegant, formal folds. Marcus leads you from the smoky bleaching room back to the master's domain, the press room. You are immediately confronted again by the centerpiece of this space, the immense wooden screw press. In the morning, you had only seen it from a distance. Up close, it is a truly intimidating piece of machinery. It consists of two massive flat wooden platters, the bottom one fixed to a heavy base, the top one attached to two enormous vertical screws, each as thick as your thigh. These screws are turned by a long, heavy crossbeam, a lever that requires the strength of at least 2 men to operate. This machine is the pride of the Fulanica, while smaller laundries might have used stones or simpler lever presses. A large screw press like this was a significant investment, a symbol of industrial power and a guarantee of a superior product. Its design was a masterpiece of Roman engineering, applying the principle of the screw to generate an incredible amount of force with relatively little effort. Archaeologists have found the remains of these presses in the ruins of Roman laundries. Their stone base is still intact, a testament to their robust construction. The master, Lucius Vettius, is here, overseeing the work with a watchful eye. He is no longer just inspecting. He is actively involved, directing the 2 press operators with quiet, precise commands. His presence elevates the entire process. This is not just manual labor. This is the final, crucial act of creation, and he is its presiding artist. Your job is to assist. The bleached togas and other fine garments are brought to the press room in clean, dry baskets. The first step is to fold them, but this is not the simple folding you would do at home. Lucius shows you the precise, almost ceremonial way a toga must be folded before pressing. It involves a complex series of pleats and overlaps, designed to both fit neatly in the press and to bake in the foundational creases that will help it drape correctly when worn. Every fold has a purpose. Boy, he says, his hands moving with a speed and dexterity that you can't hope to match. It is a language. The folds of a well-pressed toga speak of order, discipline, and respect. A sloppy fold speaks of a sloppy mind. Under his exacting gaze, you try to copy his movements. Your fingers feel clumsy and thick. You fold, and he points out your mistake. You refold, and he corrects your angle. It's a frustrating, meticulous process, but you slowly begin to understand the geometry of it, the internal logic of the draped cloth. Once a small stack of garments is perfectly folded, they are placed on the bottom platter of the press. Lucius himself positions them, ensuring they are perfectly centered. Clean linen cloths are placed between each garment to prevent any direct contact and to help wick away the last traces of moisture. Then comes the physical work. You and another young apprentice are tasked with turning the crossbeam. You each take an end. On Lucius's command, you push. The beam resists, heavy and stubborn. You have to put your entire body weight into it. Slowly, with a deep groan from the wooden threads, the screw begins to turn. The massive top platter descends, millimeter by millimeter. You push, turn, reset your footing, and push again. It's a circular, hypnotic motion. Sweat drips down your forehead. The pressure being exerted on the cloth below must be immense. You can hear the faint sigh of air and moisture being squeezed from the fibers. Historians debate whether these presses were also used with heated metal plates to add a hot pressing element, similar to a modern iron. While there's no definitive evidence, the sheer power of the press alone would have been enough to create incredibly sharp, lasting creases. After several rotations, Lucius calls a halt. The garments are left under pressure for a period of time, allowing them to set. Then, the process is reversed. You walk the beam in the opposite direction, the screws groaning in protest as they release their tension. The top platter rises, revealing the stack of laundry. Asterisk. Lucius carefully removes the top garment, a freshly pressed tunic. He unfolds it with a flourish. It is transformed. It is no longer just a piece of cloth. It is a finished product. It is perfectly smooth, impossibly flat, and adorned with razor-sharp creases. It looks less like something to be worn, and more like a piece of textile sculpture. The difference between this and the damp, fluffy cloth you were brushing just a few hours ago is night and day. Asterisk. You feel a surge of satisfaction. This, finally, is a result you can see and touch. From the foul-smelling treading vats to this moment of pristine, geometric perfection, you have followed the entire journey. You have helped wrestle beauty from chaos. The master catches your eye and gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod of approval. It's a small gesture, but it feels like a monumental victory. You helped turn the screw. You helped create this small piece of wearable order. Asterisk. With the garments pressed into a state of crisp, geometric perfection, you assume the work is finally done. The togas are brilliantly white, impeccably smooth, and ready for their senatorial owners. But Lucius Vettius is a master of his craft, and a master is never satisfied with mere perfection. He strives for something more. He seeks a level of brilliance that borders on the divine. Asterisk. Almost finished, he says, holding up a freshly pressed toga. He runs a critical hand over its surface, his fingertips searching for the slightest imperfection. Now, for the final touch, the illusion of light. Asterisk. He leads you to a small, clean table in a well-lit corner of the press room. On the table sits a large, shallow marble bowl filled with a substance that looks like the finest, purest, white flour. It's incredibly fine, almost weightless. This is not flour, however. It is chalk. Specifically, a type of fine clay or chalk dust known to historians as Creta Falonia, or Fuller's chalk. Asterisk. This is the final secret weapon in the Falonica's arsenal. It's a purely cosmetic treatment. A clever trick of the trade designed to elevate a garment from merely white to supernaturally white. The microscopic particles of the white chalk would lodge in the weave of the wool, scattering light and enhancing the brightness of the fabric to an almost dazzling degree. It was, in essence, ancient Roman fabric brightener. The final polish on a masterpiece. Asterisk. Your next task is to apply this magical dust. Lucius shows you how. It is a process of extreme delicacy. He takes a soft, dry linen cloth, dips it into the bowl of chalk, and then gently rubs it onto the surface of the toga. He works in broad, circular motions, applying the barest whisper of pressure. It's not about caking the powder on. It's about working a very fine, almost invisible layer into the very texture of the wool. Asterisk. The goal is not to see the chalk, he explains, his voice a low murmur of concentration. The goal is to see the effect of the chalk. It should catch the sunlight. When the senator moves, the fabric should shimmer. It is the difference between a simple white toga and a toga that announces a man's arrival before he even speaks. Asterisk. He hands the cloth to you. Your turn. Be gentle. You are not scrubbing a floor. You are dusting a butterfly's wing. Asterisk. You take the cloth, your hands feeling rough and clumsy after a day of harsh chemicals and heavy lifting. You dip it into the chalk, which feels as soft and cool as silk. You select a simple tunic to practice on and begin to rub, trying to emulate the master's feather-light touch. Asterisk. At first, you apply too much, leaving a faint, dusty white patch on the fabric. Lucius clicks his tongue in disapproval. Lighter. Let the cloth do the work. You are merely the guide. Asterisk. You try again, focusing on the feeling of the fabric beneath the linen pad. You lighten your touch, letting your hand float over the surface. This time, it works. The chalk seems to vanish into the wool, leaving no visible residue. But the spot you just treated seems to catch the light with a new intensity. It's a subtle but undeniable effect. The white is somehow whiter. Asterisk. You spend the next hour in this state of quiet, focused activity. You and two other workers sit at the table, meticulously dusting the finished garments under the master's watchful eye. The rest of the workshop continues its noisy, wet work in the background. But in this corner, there is a sense of calm and precision. It feels more like an artist's studio than a laundry. Asterisk. This final, cosmetic step is a fascinating detail that often gets overlooked. It reveals the sophisticated understanding the Romans had of public appearance and the psychology of status. They knew that power wasn't just about wealth or military might. It was about presentation. A brilliantly white toga, enhanced with chalk to an unnatural brightness, was a nonverbal declaration of importance. It was a subtle but powerful piece of propaganda worn on the body. Historians still debate how long this effect would last. The chalk would likely shed throughout the day, leaving a faint trail of white dust in the wearer's wake, meaning the toga would have to be returned to the Folonica for retreatment after only 1 or 2 wearings. It was a brilliant business model, ensuring a constant stream of repeat customers. Asterisk. As the afternoon begins its slow descent toward evening, the rhythm of the workshop changes once again. The frantic pace of washing and rinsing gives way to the quieter, more detailed work of finishing and folding. The finished garments, now brilliantly white, perfectly pressed, and lightly dusted, are being arranged in neat stacks on a long wooden counter near the front of the Folonica. Suddenly, a different kind of energy enters the space. A man appears at the wide entrance, silhouetted for a moment against the bright street outside. He is tall and broad-shouldered, and even in the dim light of the workshop, his presence commands immediate attention. He is dressed in a tunic of the finest linen, dyed a deep, rich crimson, and his sandals are made of soft, dark leather. He is followed by 2 slaves, who stand a respectful distance behind him. This is a patron, a wealthy client. The master, Lucius Vettius, emerges from the press room, wiping his hands on a clean cloth. The weary, demanding taskmaster is gone, replaced by a smooth, professional proprietor. He greets the visitor with a deferential but not subservient "Bo Senator, Claudius Poop," Lucius says, his voice smooth as oiled wood. "Welcome. Your garments are ready." The senator nods, his expression stern and impatient. His eyes sweep across the workshop, taking in the scene of labor with a look of detached disinterest. It is the look of a man who is accustomed to the world working for him. A man who has no need or desire to understand the mechanics of that work. To him, this place is not a complex ecosystem of chemistry and skill. It is merely a service provider. You and the other workers instinctively avert your gaze and try to make yourselves inconspicuous. You continue with your tasks, but your movements become quieter, more subtle. The vast, unbridgeable gap between your world and his is suddenly palpably present in the room. He is the reason this entire operation exists. Yet, you are all invisible to him. "I trust my toga is satisfactory," Vettius, the senator says, his voice a low, cultured rumble that carries easily through the large space. "I have an important address at the Curia tomorrow. I must look my best." "Of course, Senator. It is, if I may say so, one of our finest pieces of work," Lucius replies smoothly. He gestures to the counter, where a magnificent toga lies carefully folded, the broad purple stripe of a senator bisecting its luminous white fabric. One of the senator's slaves steps forward to collect the garment, handling it with the reverence one might reserve for a sacred object. He places it carefully into a cedar box, which another slave holds open. The senator, however, is not looking at the toga. His gaze has fallen upon you. You are standing near the counter, a simple tunic in your hands, frozen in place. He looks at your bare, stained feet, your rough hands, your simple, functional tunic. He doesn't see you as a person. He sees you as a component of the machine that serves him. You are a pair of stomping feet, a set of brushing hands. A quirky, lesser-known aspect of Roman social dynamics was this very public, yet impersonal, interaction between the elite and the laboring class. Senators would walk through the forum, their paths cleared by attendants, stepping over and around the workers who maintained the very stones they walked on. Without a flicker of acknowledgement, the senator turns his attention back to Lucius. See that it is delivered to my villa by nightfall, and add the cost to my monthly account. He doesn't wait for a reply. He simply turns and strides out of the Falonica, his slaves trailing in his wake, leaving behind a sudden, ringing silence. The tension in the room immediately evaporates. The workers relax their shoulders. The low hum of conversation resumes. Gaius mutters something under his breath about the arrogance of the nobility. That makes a few of the nearby workers chuckle. Lucius Vettius watches the senator depart, his professional smile fading as soon as the man is out of sight. He runs a hand over his face, a flicker of wariness crossing his features. He is the master of this domain, a respected member of his guild, a successful businessman. But in the presence of a man like Senator Poulcare, he, too, is reminded of his place in the grand Roman hierarchy. He catches you watching, and his expression softens slightly. "Do not mind him, boy," he says, his voice returning to its normal, practical tone. "His coin spends the same as any other. It is his kind that allows us to eat. Now, back to work. We have a delivery to prepare." The encounter is over in less than a minute, but it leaves a lasting impression. You have spent all day engaged in the most intimate, humbling labor, transforming a garment stained with the grime of the senator's life. You have touched his clothes, breathed in the essence of his world, yet you are utterly separate from it. You are the hidden, pungent secret behind his brilliant white purity. It's a powerful and sobering lesson about the structure of this ancient world. A world built on a foundation of labor, performed by countless, nameless people like you, all in service of the pristine, effortless image of the men at the top, as the last of the day's light begins to fade, casting long, soft shadows across the workshop floor. A different kind of ritual begins. Most of the heavy laundry work is done. The rinsing pools are quiet. The treading vats are empty, and the great screw press stands idle. The remaining tasks are of a quieter nature, sweeping the floors, cleaning the tools, and preparing for the next day's onslaught of soiled linen and wool. Amidst this winding down, you notice Marcus, the kind-eyed rinser, walk over to a small, unassuming niche carved into the back wall of the Falonica. You hadn't paid it much attention before, but now you see that it holds a small, crudely carved statuette, no taller than your hand. It's a figure of a woman in flowing robes, holding a spear in one hand, and with a small, wide-eyed owl perched on her shoulder. Before the statue, in a small clay dish, lies a simple offering, a few dried figs, and a single perfect olive. Marcus stands before the little shrine for a moment, his head bowed in a gesture of quiet respect. He murmurs a few words, too low for you to hear, before turning back to his work. Curious, you approach the niche when he has moved away. You look at the statuette. The owl is the same one you saw carved in stone above the main entrance. You recognize the goddess from stories you've heard, Minerva, the patroness of wisdom, commerce, and, most importantly for everyone here, crafts. That is our protector, a quiet voice says beside you. It's Lucius, the master. He has approached without you noticing, his movements silent and graceful. He stands beside you, looking at the small shrine with an expression of fond familiarity. Every guild has its patron deity, he explains. The blacksmiths pray to Vulcan for a strong fire. The sailors pray to Neptune for a calm sea. We, the Phalonis, pray to Minerva. It seems a strange choice at first. Minerva is a goddess of the mind, of strategy and divine knowledge. What does she have to do with the grimy, physical work of laundering clothes? Lucius seems to read your mind. You think our work is just sweat and stench? He asks, a faint, knowing smile on his lips. Look around you. This is a craft of great wisdom. It is chemistry. It is engineering. It is understanding the nature of wool, of water, of sulfur and ash. It is knowing the precise pressure to apply to a toga without breaking a single thread. This is not mindless labor, boy. This is a science. And for that, we need Minerva's blessing. He points to the owl, and her owl sees all. It sees the lazy worker who cuts corners. It sees the flaw in the weave. It watches over our work in the dark hours of the night and ensures our craft remains true. The existence of a patron goddess for the Fuller's Guild is a well-documented historical fact. Guilds, or collegia, were a vital part of Roman commerce and society. They were part trade union, part social club, and part religious society. They set standards for their craft, supported members who fell on hard times, and ensured proper burials. Their shared devotion to a patron deity created a powerful sense of identity and solidarity among the workers. For the Fullones, a trade often looked down upon for its unsavory methods, this divine patronage would have been particularly important, lending a sense of dignity and higher purpose to their smelly, back-breaking work. Lucius continues, his voice becoming more personal. My father was the master of this Phylonica before me, and his father before him. This statue was carved by my great-grandfather. It has watched over 4 generations of my family. It has seen this city through plagues, fires, and the reigns of a dozen emperors. It reminds us that our work is part of something much larger than ourselves. We are a thread in the great fabric of Rome. He picks up the single olive from the offering dish, rolling it between his thumb and forefinger. A senator like Pulcher, he sees us as servants. But Minerva knows the truth. We are artisans. We are the guardians of purity. We take the sullied and make it clean. There is a nobility in that, do you not think? You look from the master's earnest face to the small, impassive statue of the goddess. For the first time, you see the workshop not just as a place of relentless, odorous labor, but as a place with a soul. It has history, tradition, and a quiet, shared faith. The workers are not just isolated individuals. They are a brotherhood, bound together by a common craft and watched over by a common goddess. The final tasks of the day are performed in the gathering twilight. The air cools, and the dusty shafts of light angling through the high windows turn from gold to a soft, hazy blue. The fiery glow of the sulfur brazier has been extinguished, and its acrid scent is finally beginning to fade, replaced by the cleaner, simpler smells of damp stone and cooling wood. This is the time for closing down, for restoring order after a day of chaotic, productive mess. The energy in the workshop is slow and methodical. There is no rush, only the steady, rhythmic sounds of cleaning and organizing. Gaius directs the work, his voice softer now, less of a bark and more of a low rumble. Your job is to help clean the tools. You are given a bucket of clean water and a stiff bristled brush, and set to work scrubbing the wooden paddles from the rinsing pools. You scrape away the accumulated grime and wool fibers, rinsing them until the wood is pale and clean. It's simple, mindless work, and you find a strange satisfaction in it. Restoring a tool to its proper state feels like a fitting end to the day. You are erasing the evidence of the day's labor, preparing the workshop for a fresh start tomorrow. Across the room, 2 other apprentices are sweeping the stone floors. They use heavy brooms made of bundled twigs, pushing the day's detritus stray wool fibers, bits of dried teasel, chalk dust, and general muck into small piles. They work their way from the back of the Phylonica to the front, their sweeping synchronized in a slow, sweeping dance. The water that constantly flows in the rinsing pools has been diverted, and now a fresh stream is directed down the central drainage channel, washing away the last of the grime and leaving the flagstones dark and glistening. Asterisk. Marcus is carefully cleaning the teasel brushes, using a small metal comb to pick out the wool fibers caught in their prickly hooks. He handles them with the care of a musician cleaning his instrument. These tools are the lifeblood of the trade, and they must be maintained. A well-cared-for tool, his movements seem to say, is a loyal servant. Asterisk, even the treading vats are being cleaned. A young boy, the youngest of all the workers, is scooping out the last of the foul sludge from the bottom, his small body disappearing almost entirely into the stone basin. It's a dirty, unpleasant job, but he does it without complaint. It is his role in this ecosystem. Asterisk, this daily ritual of cleaning is a crucial, if often overlooked, part of the historical reality of such a workshop. In a place that dealt with so much filth and so many harsh chemicals, maintaining a baseline of cleanliness would have been essential to prevent disease, and to keep the final product from being contaminated. It speaks to the highly organized and systematic nature of Roman industry. This was not a haphazard operation. It was a finely tuned machine, and that machine required daily maintenance. Asterisk, as you finish with the paddles and start on a set of wooden buckets. You listen to the sounds of the city winding down outside. The clatter of merchants' carts has been replaced by the softer sounds of people walking home. You can hear the distant laughter of children playing a final game in the street before being called inside. A vendor passes by, his voice a melodic cry, selling roasted chestnuts for an evening snack. The city is changing its clothes, shedding the rough tunic of the working day and putting on the softer garments of the evening. Asterisk, the master. Lucius Vettius makes a final tour of his domain. He is no longer the demanding instructor or the suave proprietor. He is the quiet custodian of his family's legacy. He runs a hand over the cool, damp wood of the great press. He inspects the clean floors. He nods in approval at the neatly stacked tools. His presence is a silent reminder that this is his world, his responsibility. Asterisk, when he is satisfied, he gives a single, sharp nod to Gaius. The foreman claps his hands one last time. The day is done, he announces. Go get some rest. The dirt will be waiting for you tomorrow. Asterisk, there is no great cheer, only the quiet, weary shuffle of men gathering their few personal belongings. Sandals are slipped back onto tired, clean feet. Tunics are straightened. One by one, the workers file out of the great, dark mouth of the Phalanca and into the cool, purple light of dusk. Asterisk, you watch them go, a small, anonymous crowd dissolving into the larger river of the Roman evening. These men, who spent their day performing one of history's most necessary and least pleasant jobs, now disappear back into the fabric of the city, their pungent profession, a secret they carry in the very fibers of their clothes. Historians can study the ruins of these workshops and the tools they left behind, but the human element, the shared exhaustion, the quiet camaraderie, the feeling of walking out into the fresh evening air after a day spent inhaling ammoniates, something that can only be imagined. As you prepare to leave yourself, you feel the weight of the day settle in your bones. A profound and deeply earned fatigue. Asterisk, you are one of the last to leave. You retrieve your sandals from the corner where you left them what feels like a lifetime ago. The leather feels stiff and foreign after a day of walking barefoot on wet stone. You step across the threshold, out of the Phalanca, and back into the world. Asterisk, the difference is staggering. The evening air feels impossibly fresh, cool, and clean. You take a deep breath, and for the first time in hours, your lungs are filled with something other than ammonia and sulfur. You can smell the wood smoke from 1,000 cooking fires, the faint, sweet scent of night-blooming flowers from a hidden rooftop garden, the dusty perfume of the ancient city itself. It's a symphony of smells you were completely numb to this morning. But now, after the sensory deprivation of the workshop, It feels like a gift. Asterisk, you can still smell the Falonica on yourself, of course. A faint, sharp, chemical tang that clings to your skin and your tunic. It's your new perfume, the mark of your trade. You wonder if others on the street can smell it, if they wrinkle their noses as you pass, if they know the secret of how their togas get so white. You feel a strange mixture of shame and pride. Asterisk, you begin the walk home, your path lit by the soft flickering glow of oil lamps being lit in doorways and windows. The city at dusk is a different creature from the city at dawn. The purposeful rush of the day has been replaced by a more leisurely, social rhythm. The streets are still full of people, but they are strolling, not striding. Families are gathered on their doorsteps. Friends are laughing outside a tavern, the sound of their voices warm and inviting. Asterisk, your body aches in places you didn't know you had. Your feet are tender, your back is a knot of tight muscles, and your hands sting with a dozen tiny abrasions. Every step is an effort, yet there is a deep, satisfying hum of exhaustion that underlies the pain. It is the feeling of having completed a hard day's work, of having earned your rest. Asterisk, as you navigate the familiar labyrinth of narrow streets, the grand marble monuments of Rome are visible in the distance, their tops glowing in the last embers of the sunset. The Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill, the vast curve of the Colosseum. From here, in the working-class heart of the city, they look like a dream, a different world, impossibly grand and clean. It's a city of profound contrasts, where the gleaming white marble of the Forum is made possible by the foul, sloshing vats of the Falonica. One cannot exist without the other. Asterisk, you pass the bakery you saw this morning. The ovens are cold now, the air around it smelling of cooled embers. The baker is sitting outside on a stool, sharing a cup of wine with his wife. He nods to you as you pass. It's a simple gesture of recognition, a silent acknowledgement that you are both part of the great, unseen army of workers that allows the city to function. Asterisk. The historical narrative so often focuses on the great men, the emperors, the generals, the orators. But a city, you realize, is not just its great men. A city is the baker, the smith, the weaver, and the fulo. It is the sum of a million small, anonymous lives, each one a thread in an impossibly complex tapestry. Your day was not glorious. It was not heroic. But it was essential. Without your tired feet and your raw hands, a senator could not command respect in the Forum. An empire, in some small, strange way, is held together by the very things it tries to wash away. Asterisk, you finally reach the towering insula where you live, a beehive of apartments stacked one on top of the other. You climb the dark, narrow stairs, your hand trailing against the rough plaster wall. The sounds and smells of a dozen other families' lives leaked through the thin walls, the sizzle of frying fish, the cry of a baby, the low murmur of an argument. Asterisk, you enter your small room. It is sparse, containing only a straw mattress on the floor and a small wooden chest for your belongings. But it is your sanctuary. It is the one place where the demands of the world and the smells of your new job can be kept at bay. You strip off your tunic, the scent of the workshop rising from it one last time, and wash yourself as best you can from a small basin of cold water. Asterisk, as you finally lie down on the mattress, the straw rustling beneath you, the full weight of the day's exhaustion descends. Your body feels heavy, anchored to the earth. Your mind, which has been so focused on learning new, strange, and often disgusting tasks, finally goes quiet. The sounds of the city outside become a distant, gentle lullaby. You are no longer an apprentice, no longer a component in a machine. You are just a tired boy in a small room in a vast and sleeping city. Your first day as a Roman launderer is over. You have survived, and as you close your eyes,